Hey guys, today's video I want to talk about how to do shadow work, how to actually do shadow work, where to start, because I know the topic of shadow work can leave a lot of people feeling very lost and out in the middle of fucking nowhere. And I get it. That's very valid. That's very fair because I feel like shadow work is definitely something that has become more popular and brought to light over the past couple of years, especially through TikTok. And I know for me, I discovered doing shadow work and healing the inner child through TikTok. I remember the first time I ever heard anything about healing inner child, I was watching somebody's live, and they were talking about inner child healing and basically nurturing your inner child that has felt neglected and abandoned. And watching that live really spoke to me in a way that I was never spoken to before, if that makes sense. It really brought up something that I didn't know that I needed at the time, but it was something that just, it was really just perfect timing. It was just, I was in the right place at the right time. And in that moment when I was hearing about inner child healing, I myself said out loud, that's what I want. That's what I want. I declared in that moment that I wanted that path of healing my inner child. And I feel like, with moving forward within healing your inner child and just doing shadow work, you have to declare for yourself that is something that you want for yourself. You have to decide that that's the path that you want to take for yourself and to commit to it. And now with doing shadow work and healing your inner child, it does not have to be complicated. It shouldn't be complicated. You don't have to perform a ritual to do shadow work. It can be as simple as sitting down, turning all distractions off, getting off of your phone, getting off of social media, turning off the TV, setting time for yourself when you're not, working or going to school or whatever you do in your life that causes you to kind of just move and go and go and go. And just really sitting down with yourself with a journal, or if you're comfortable enough to talk to yourself out loud, then do that. I know I thoroughly enjoy talking to myself out loud to just kind of process my thoughts, what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. But shadow work, like I said, it does not have to be complicated. It can be as simple as sitting down with yourself in silence with a journal and being completely transparent with yourself about how you feel in that exact moment. How you feel about yourself, how you feel about how your day went, how you feel about your family, how you feel about the world and what's going on. Just being completely honest and transparent with how you feel, and not, being like, no, I can't feel that way. No, I can't think this. Like, you have to, like, a lot of the reason I know for me, journaling, I've hesitated with journaling because the things that I was journaling about, I judged. And so while I was hesitating, while I was journaling, I judged myself for what I was putting down. But, nobody's going to read your journal except for you. I mean, hopefully there are people, around you who aren't sneaky as fuck and are going to read your journal or anything like that. Let's hope, y'all. And I will put a definition of shadow work right here. And I like the part where it talks about basically integrating the parts of yourself that have been neglected and rejected, that we view as wrong and undesirable, and integrating that with the whole self. Because when you don't acknowledge or shed light on the shadow aspects of ourselves, you are subconsciously creating from the shadow aspects of yourself that you deem as undesirable, your fears, the fear of being abandoned, the fear of being rejected. All of that is going to reflect in your external reality because that is a part that has not been integrated and shed light on. I know shadow work can be very intimidating. Work on facing the parts of ourselves that we do not want to feel. And it's also, I feel like we overcomplicate it by asking ourselves where to start. I mean, that's not a bad question. I think that's a really good question because I feel like that's an indication that you care and that you are willing to do the work. But I notice, at least for me, trying to scramble on where or how to start kind of prolongs or is a way to procrastinate from actually starting because I'm afraid of what I'm going to find or what's going to happen on the other side. With shadow work on how to start, how I started, and I started doing shadow work back in 2022. So I was at my desk and I had my journal, and I started from something that has always really upset me. And this, I'm going to be very vulnerable and honest. My parents abandoned me at a very young age because they went to jail. That's something that even now I'm still processing, that is still painful, and grieving the absence of my parents at a very, very young age, like at the age of 3 years old. And shadow work is not something that you do once and then you all of a sudden feel better. Like, shadow work is a consistent thing that you have to do because it requires peeling back the layers to get closer to the root, and to the root of the pain, the abandonment, the grieving of what you've experienced, of what you did not have the safe space or the tools or the environment to truly feel. Doing shadow work and learning how to regulate your nervous system, learning how to regulate your inner child and nurture your inner child, you're basically having to reparent yourself. Because I know growing up, I didn't always have a safe space to feel my emotions. I didn't always have the tools or the people around me who supported me and nurtured me in that way. And so it's really a process, and you're not going to be perfect at it. I know when I talk to my inner child, I'm like, I don't even know what to say, but I'm learning to be gentle with that part of myself, because the fact that I'm even trying and willing to talk to my inner child and nurture her is enough to show that I care. It is important to remember that and to not be hard on yourself, because a lot of us did not have healthy, positive examples of what it looks like to nurture yourself, to care for yourself, to allow the depth and the full spectrum of emotions to be felt without shame and judgment. A way that I like to nurture my inner child, especially when I'm in the thick of, feeling how I feel, feeling grief, feeling just sad, feeling unloved, feeling unlovable, feeling unworthy, I acknowledge how I feel. I place my hand on my heart, or I like to hold myself like a hug and just sway. And when I do that and I'm being very intimate with myself, I usually start to cry, and I feel like that's definitely an important indication that my inner child feels validated and feels heard. So if I hug myself, or if I place my hands on my heart and I'm like, I know that you're feeling very sad and abandoned right now. I know that you've been through so much in your life. I know that you have felt so abandoned and so hurt and so alone when your parents left you at a very young age. Telling yourself what you feel like you wanted to hear at the age where you felt abandoned, where you felt rejected. Because a lot of our abandonment and rejection wounds project themselves onto more relevant scenarios where we feel abandoned and rejected, but there's always a root cause. There's always something that can be directed back to that happened in our childhood. Sometimes I cling on to more relevant, I wouldn't say relevant, but just more moments that happened in the near distant past that have triggered those wounds within me, and I cling on to those, feeling like that thing, that rejection, that abandonment that I experienced from this person who is no longer in my life is the reason why I feel this way. But the reason why I feel that way is because it's triggering a wound that I've had since I was 3 years old, that I've experienced since I was 3. It's really about validating how you feel. And I know a lot of us, we say that we hate how we feel. We hate feeling abandoned. We hate feeling rejected. We hate these parts of ourselves that desire to be nurtured and to be unconditionally loved, to be chosen. But it's completely natural and normal as human beings to feel these things. And we are social creatures. When you strip back when you strip back who you are before the trauma, before the indoctrination, before the brainwashing, we are beings and creatures and souls of unconditional love. And so being able to show yourself unconditional love when you are interacting with these wounded parts of yourself is really going to help you transmute the hurt and the pain and the resentment that you feel into unconditional love. And it is not a one-time thing. You have to do this over and over again, because the wound doesn't heal overnight, especially if it's a very deep wound that has been suppressed for a very long time. It's going to take a while to heal. And I think Patience is something that I know that I'm definitely working on, but it's very freeing. It's unmatched. It's really unmatched. But going back to the nurturing your inner child, I'll give more examples too. I made a video on chasing validation through social media. Searching for validation outside of yourself is not just exclusive with social media, it's literally within everything that you do. And I notice when I feel rejected, when certain expectations of mine aren't met, or when I just feel rejected in general, I tell myself with my hand on my heart, I know that you feel rejected right now. I know that all you really want is close connection and friendships and love. And I know that in the past, with your family, with yourself, with friends, that you have felt invalidated, you have felt rejected for being who you truly are. You feel unloved, you feel unheard, you feel unseen. And I know this is a very painful wound for you. I know that you feel like there's something wrong with you or that you are doing something wrong. I know that the pain of being rejected for who you are causes you to want that void to be filled. And sometimes I don't like that. Like, sometimes it's difficult. Like, so I'm like struggling a little bit on what to say, but there's really no wrong or right way to do it. It's really just about validating how you feel, validating out loud that yes, you feel rejected. Yes, you desire to feel loved and accepted. Validating that it is completely normal and natural as a human to want to be loved and accepted. And there is nothing wrong with that. You are deserving and worthy of unconditional love and acceptance. And yes, not everybody is going to like me. Not everybody is going to accept me. There are going to be times where I'm going to be rejected for who I am. But just because other people reject you does not mean I am going to reject you. Just because other people don't like you does not mean I'm not going to like you. Like, that's perfect. Like, saying stuff like that, really just molding it for whatever situation is relevant, for whatever wound is triggered in whatever situation and scenario. And there are times when you're triggered. Usually triggers have nothing to do with other people, and if anything, triggers are just an indication of something that is coming up for you to look at and to nurture. And I know that I viewed being triggered as this bad thing, like, oh my god, I'm triggered, that doesn't mean I'm healed. No, being triggered is just an indication or an invitation to nurture this part of myself that wants to be seen. And I think having that mindset shift of viewing being triggered and having these wounds as being the problem, shifting that mindset as viewing these parts of yourself that are bad and, you know, causing problems and are getting in the way of you loving yourself or being who you want to be, is just perpetuating more self-hate and self-rejection and perpetuating the similar harm and pain that has been inflicted on you by your family or past friends and past relationships. And I think it's important that we do have these mindset shifts to be more open and receptive to ourselves and the parts of ourselves that feel very wounded. And back on the topic of shadow work, and this video is a little bit all over the place. Like, I like to jump from conversation, so I hope y'all are keeping up. Okay. But and ask your inner child how you feel, like literally talking to your inner child, calling upon your inner child. If you're, you know, more tapped in spiritually and have a spirit team, spirit guides, or a higher self that you want to connect to, what I like to do is I call upon my higher self, I call upon my inner child, and I'm like, I call upon my inner child, I call upon my higher self, because I am ready to face these wounds. I want the root cause of these wounds to come to the surface, and usually they do for me. But I also have been, you know, on this journey for a little bit longer, and so that's definitely something that, if you are interested in that type of practice, definitely invest in that for yourself, because it is different for everybody. But I literally call upon that to be brought to the surface for me to process. And usually when I do this, like I said, I do cry, and that is just an indication that I'm allowing myself to process it. And a lot of this does take time, like I said, because most of the time we don't even feel safe within our bodies. Our inner child doesn't even feel safe to feel these emotions. For me, when sometimes really difficult emotions come up or memories come up, I go into my mind and immediately start thinking about going on my phone or what can I eat, or I'm like, ooh, I'm hungry, because it's a way that our mind tries to protect ourselves by distracting us. And so really trying your best to be within your body in these moments when you are opening up space to be vulnerable with yourself one-on-one, going online and looking up shadow work questions and asking, and there are a lot of good fucking prompts out there that you can look up, especially if there's like a specific thing that you want to do shadow work on, like rejection wounds or abandonment wounds, father wounds, mother wounds. But in my opinion, they all are together. Like all of those wounds are like all the same to me. It can also be just like writing about the first painful memory that you can remember. If your parents have been divorced, if you've experienced a relative passing or a close friend passing, or literally anybody that you have had a relationship with that you love very deeply. Talk about times where you've rejected yourself. Talk about arguments that you've had with people who have been in your life, whether it's family, friends, relationships, whatever. Talk about how those arguments affected you. And it is so important when you reflect on these parts of yourself to be kind and gentle and nurturing. And I just want to let you guys know that doing this work, it is a practice, it is a journey, like I said, and I will always try my best to put this out there, because I know I've watched videos of people talking about shadow work, and this is more of a reflection of my own internalized shame, but I would take it personally, because sometimes when I watch videos about people talking about shadow work, I feel like I'm not doing enough, I'm not healed enough, that, just that these parts of myself need to be fixed. And healing, what I've learned through healing is that healing isn't about changing or fixing yourself or viewing yourself as something or somebody that's broken that needs to be fixed. Healing and shadow work is really just about integrating the parts of yourself that you and society have rejected and deemed as undesirable and unworthy of love and acceptance. That's really what it is. It's really about getting back to the truth and the core of who you are. It's really about getting back into your body and allowing yourself to experience and feel all of your emotions, all of them. Because that is why we are here. That's what I believe. That's why we are here. We are here to experience all of our emotions. We are here to learn how to alchemize and transmute pain into art and into unconditional love. And I think that is so important to start with yourself. Because I know for me, I give great advice, especially when it comes to healing, but sometimes I do slip and I don't take my own advice. And I'm starting to take my own advice more, especially when it comes to nurturing myself and being kinder to myself. When I have a lot of anxious, overthinking thoughts, I now take those as invitations to reflect on them. And usually when I do get to the root cause of whatever loud, intrusive thoughts that are in my mind, they usually go away. It's honestly it's like magic. Telling me that I'm not enough, telling me that I need to do more, telling me that if I just did this, then I'd be good enough. And then when I actually reflect on where these thoughts are coming from, it's coming from a wound of not being good enough. It comes from a wound of feeling like I'm not good enough, like I'll never be enough, and a belief that, if I just achieve or if I just prove myself, then I'll be enough. Healing gets really deep, and that's why it's so important to be consistent. But it's also important that you don't have to journal and meditate every day to be good enough or to be spiritual enough or to, be effective with healing work. But it is important to be consistent. And I know a lot of people do fall into this trap where they start to feel bad because they don't meditate and journal every day. But you don't have to meditate and journal every day to reach this standard or to love yourself. You can love yourself here right now. We kind of get this idea in the beginning that, once I heal this abandonment wound, once I heal this rejection wound, once I start thinking that I'm good enough, or I'll start thinking I'm good enough when I heal these wounds. Like, the point of it is to love yourself even with the wounds there, to love yourself even with the intrusive thoughts, to love yourself even with your neurodivergence, to love yourself even when other people don't love you. It's really not about changing or getting rid or exiling these parts of yourself to be enough for love. You are already worthy of love as you are. The idea of it is that you are already whole and complete as you are, and that's exactly what healing is about. It's about remembering that you are whole and complete as you are, that there's nothing wrong with you, you're not broken, you've just experienced shit that you didn't fucking deserve, that was out of your control, but you learn these things so that you can grow from them. And I know that's hard to hear, especially if you've experienced some really traumatic shit in your life. And it's gonna take time to have these mindset shifts. I know sometimes I try to force myself to shift my mindset because I don't want to fall into the victim mindset, but sometimes the ego, especially having a spiritual ego, can hijack a lot of these talking points. And it's like, oh, well, if I feel sorry for myself because I've experienced some really traumatic shit, then that's me falling into a victim mindset. Sometimes you have to allow yourself to feel like a victim for you to go through that process and then to be able to be on the other side of realizing, like, yeah, that was really shitty and I didn't deserve that, but that happened for my greatest and my highest good. That happened for me to be right here where I am now, where I'm able to forgive myself, to forgive others, and to love myself, and to help other people love themselves too. The ego will hijack the fuck out of your journey. Trust me, sometimes I'm still doing that right now, and I am not where I want to be, but I know where I'm going, and I've said this before, and I know with the more that I've learned, that I'm able to teach and help other people as well through my own experiences, and I'm so lucky to do that. But the spiritual ego will definitely cause you to doubt yourself and to feel like falling into the victim mindset is wrong, and that's just another thing about you that you need to fix. I know for me personally, when it comes to healing, or when I from a place of shame, through a lens of shame, because shame and the spiritual ego can definitely take over the driver's seat in your life, and it's important to catch that, and that's a process. I know even another part of healing is recognizing and realizing when you are letting your ego in the driver's seat, when you are giving your mental and emotional stimulation and reaction to things that contribute to the patterns in your life. When I am healing, or especially when I watch a lot of spiritual healing content, and there's these like wounds, or they talk about the mother wound, the father wound, all of these wounds, all of these healing things, I'm like, damn, now it's just another thing that I have to heal, just another thing that I find wrong with myself. And that is a way that you can tell that you're operating from shame and that your ego is in the mix. But I really hope this video helped. I feel like I didn't go in depth enough, but I mean, like I said, it really isn't complicated. It's not easy, it's uncomfortable, but being able to sit in the uncomfortableness is going to be exactly what you need to help you love yourself. Like, to be honest, I hope this helped anybody who's out there who feels lost, looking for any type of direction, and just be easy on yourself, especially when you've experienced a bunch of trauma, because trauma changes your brain. It changes the way that you view the world and you view yourself, especially when the way that you're viewing yourself is through shame and judgment and rejection. The more that we reject and judge these parts of ourselves that do feel ashamed and do feel rejected, it kind of doubles down on that and causes more dysregulation. Because I know I've been in the loop where I feel ashamed for feeling shame. It be like that. It really is fucking like that. Consuming, and it's heartbreaking, and I know what that's like. I see you guys, if you experience that or have experienced that. Healing or nurturing your inner child is one of the things that is just the most rewarding. Actually pay attention to the parts of myself that are calling out for me, and I'm gonna like start crying because it's really beautiful, and it's something that it's like I'm just so grateful that I've really have chosen myself in this way and chose this path for myself, and I'm able to help other people in this way. But being able to show up for my inner child the way that she has never experienced before is truly like one of the most beautiful things. And it's just like, it's a type of beauty that I want people to experience. And it takes time. It takes really connecting with yourself and seeing what works for you. Don't overcomplicate it. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be this fucking ritual. It really doesn't. All it takes is just you. All it takes is you and your honesty and your vulnerability, and, you know, holding space for yourself, even if it's for 5 minutes. Even if it's for 5 minutes. If you can if you can sit down with yourself and your vulnerability in your heart with a journal, or just talking to yourself every day and doing it more and more, the more you start to feel comfortable and safe with doing that, including that in your routine, it'll genuinely take you a long way. And, you know, the more you do it, the more you start to realize what works for you, what doesn't, the more you realize that you're advancing. Because I see where I'm at now, and I reflect where I was when I truly started, you know, in 2022, and I've come so fucking far, and I'm so proud of myself. And it just shows that no matter how fucking depressed you've been, no matter how much you've hated yourself, no matter how much you wanted to, you know, not be alive anymore, no matter how much you felt like there is no purpose for you in this world, no matter how much you felt like you're not wanted, you're not loved, that it is very possible to love yourself, even if you don't feel that way every day. Even if you don't feel that way every day, knowing that you can be there for yourself and love and nurture yourself, and not try to change or correct how you feel, and just allow yourself to be and exist. You don't have to love yourself every day. You don't have to try to convince yourself that you love yourself all the time. That's not what healing is about. Healing and all of these journeys and all of these practices are really just about allowing yourself to fucking be and exist, without trying to correct it, without trying to correct your being all of the time, with rejecting that. Because especially in the society we live in, there's always going to be something, even if you're not looking for it, there's always going to be something or somebody telling you that you have to fix this about yourself, that you have to do this in order to be this, that trying to constantly correct you, your body, your mind, your mindset, how you speak. And some of it is very valuable information, and it is important. Like, how you speak about yourself, about your life, is super important. And I think having awareness of how you talk to yourself, how you talk about yourself, how you talk about other people is super important. But a lot of these messages do come from people who don't even know themselves. A lot of these messages come from people who are operating from their own shame. And so it's also important to have discernment by who you're taking messages from, what you're ingraining, what beauty standards that you're following, and who is telling you what's in and what's out, what's beautiful and what's not. I never thought that I'd be where I am today, learning to love myself, being in the practice that I do, practicing what I do. And I'm not fully on the other end. Like, I still have my days where I do want to distract myself, where I don't want to feel, where I just want to does not do anything. And that's okay. Like, that is okay. And I know living with people or having people in your life who are not choosing the path that you're choosing can be confusing and hard. I know. But there's nothing, I mean, there is something you can do about it, because you're not obligated to keep people in your life who don't want to see you grow, who don't want to see you love yourself, who have benefited from you not loving yourself or you not choosing yourself. But what I mean by there's nothing you can do about it, there's nothing that you can do about them viewing you that way, because that is a reflection of how they view and feel about themselves. But like I said, I know what it's like to feel absolutely just dog shit about yourself. I know what that void feels like. I know what it's like to look outside of yourself to fill that void. I know what it's like to look for the answers outside of yourself. But it is fucking possible, and I'm just so grateful and happy to be the embodiment of somebody that can advocate for it being possible. that it is fucking possible. You just gotta commit to yourself. You gotta choose yourself. You gotta show yourself that you are worthy of the effort. You are worthy of putting in the effort to love yourself. Because I know what it feels like to not feel worthy of effort. I know, trust me, and a lot of feeling not worthy of effort has come from a lot of wounds from my childhood. But I'm grateful to start to understand that that's not my truth. That's not anybody's truth. No matter how fucking consuming it feels. But I hope this video helped. And if you have any questions or if you have anything you want to share in the comments, I would love to just talk. I'm always here. I see you guys. If you are in pain, you are loved. I love you. You are worthy of living. You are. We all are. And I know that pain of feeling like you're not. Trust me. But I love you guys, and I hope you guys have a good night and stay safe out in this world. Goodbye.